So it's tricky because there's now so much information coming out, and a lot of it is relatively new science. That what I always tell parents is just inform yourselves. There's so many resources, and there's so many places to look for something that 10 years ago most people didn't know what a concussion even was. That it's tough because there's kind of a gold rush in the world of concussion prevention, where if people will buy snake oil, then people will sell it, and people are claiming they've created a concussion. Take this pill and you won't have a concussion, or put this headband on and you won't get a concussion in soccer. And there is no product or treatment or anything that can eliminate the risk of concussions. And so for parents, the most important thing is be active, ask your kids questions, educate yourself on what a concussion is, what should happen in the event that your kid has one. And really that's the whole name of the game, is just be aware of what a concussion is, and you're really already kind of ahead of the whole pack. I think when push comes to shove, the decision needs to be taken away from the athlete. No NFL football player ever says, I think I had a concussion, I'm going to take myself off the field. The system has to be set up where the decision is taken from the athlete, especially in the moment of decision, in the heat of battle, because a concussion it incapacitates you in a way where you're even less equipped than normal to make that decision. And so I would never expect a kid to come to a parent and say, I think I had a concussion, I shouldn't play next week. But if a parent thinks their kid had a concussion, you should not let them play next week. It shouldn't be their decision to begin with. Well, honestly, I think the biggest thing, you're not going to be able to convince a 16-year-old to worry about their health when they're 60. And so it's more just take care of yourself. And especially, you might not be able to convince somebody that they need to stay out for a month because of a concussion, but especially when it relates to what second impact syndrome is, which is when you have a concussion and you go back too soon and then have another one, that can be a life-threatening instance. And so even if you just prevent that from happening, that's a big step forward, because that kind of tragedy has no place in youth and high school sports. And a lot of times that's a situation that's totally avoidable if the athlete just understood the risk that they were putting themselves in. I was always kind of a player safety advocate in my time in the NFL. We had a committee called the Player Safety and Welfare Committee that I was a founding member of, and it just sort of set me down a path where I remember the very first time that we sat in a room, and the NFL is very powerful in that it's such a strong brand that we were able to get literally the best 15 or 20 doctors in the entire world as it pertains to concussion research, diagnosis, and treatment, all in the same room, out of their silos, talking with each other, sharing best practices. And that very first meeting we had, we heard from 15 different doctors, and we heard 15 different opinions. And as a player, that was pretty alarming. These are the best in the world at this, and they don't agree on anything. And I think that was probably 2006, 2007. And even just where the research has come in the last 4 or 5 years, you combine that real robust, data-driven feedback to what a concussion is and how to treat it with the awareness that we now have around it. And I think it's a really, really interesting time to get policies in place to make substantive change, where with some other issues you may just kind of be banging your head against the wall with people who don't even care. Well, first off, younger athletes are more susceptible to concussions than mature ones. And based on sheer numbers alone, the policies instituted at the NFL level affect 1,800 men. When you think about high school sports, college sports, all the way down to the youth sport level, you're talking millions, tens of millions of athletes that can potentially be affected. And so it's important at the NFL level, but yes, to protect those players, but more as a thought leader for instituting policies that will then trickle down to other levels of sports.